to make sacrifices for the betterment of the team.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second series today on the LCS channel for the 2022 League of Legends College Championship Series. I am still your host, Dylan MLBD, joined by TJ and Joshi, and we had ourselves a banger of a first series.
Yeah, we did.
Unbelievably close to 0. The score might not show it, but our hearts were racing the entire time, and we do have a second series on our hands today that is shaping up to be just as good, if not better, between Michigan State University and HU Storm. So let's get right into sort of the meat and potatoes of things. Let's just dive right into the discussion about these two teams. And let's start on a broad scale, right? Let's talk about the programs. TJ, I know you've done a little bit of research into the background of these programs. So what did you find out?
Yeah, so they're pretty different programs. Harrisburg is kind of a storied program. They offer full scholarships. They brought in a ton of talent. They offer full rides. They have 3 previous LCS staff members. They're pretty much like the gold standard of like some of the first collegiate programs where they're really investing in the space and wanting to see the collegiate success. They're very structured, very standard, gold star, really. Whereas MSU is kind of the opposite. They're a student-run club on their campus, as you might have heard on Incon in the previous segment. It's really just a bunch of goons together playing, putting in a lot of effort, and it's a large state school, so they have a lot of good players there. They definitely like to play scrappy, and really I'm excited to see how does a group of friends play against this storied program in Harrisburg.
It definitely feels like the homies once again, right? Just like we saw from our previous game. Grandview were the homies before, and now we have the thing coming through for Michigan State. But I also want to say, for teams like Harrisburg, it's the kind of building up of a program. We saw some great success from them last year. They were 3rd place in 2021. They're trying to outpace that again this year. And it feels like when you have that much support going in, it's not unusual to say how much success this roster is going to have.
A top 8 without Harrisburg would feel almost wrong,
feel weird,
right? I mean, with all their history in the space and the scholarships and everything, and taking a look at the bracket real quick, I mean, we just see that, if they are able to win this series, it doesn't look too bad because they're probably facing against ASU. And the road from there isn't too difficult, right? I mean, honestly, making top 8 is the big mark that many of these teams want, but their path is laid out. The winner of this series does not have too difficult of a road to get deep into this tournament. But let's shift our gears into sort of talking specifically about the players and the matchup at head. Starting first with Harrisburg, Joshi, what do you have in terms of their gameplay, in terms of their tendencies? What is Harrisburg like?
Well, it feels very similar to kind of what we were talking about previously. It's something you might expect with a roster that has so much background support from these LCS players. They are a very standard team almost. They play very classic League of Legends. You get a lot of people to show up at the Dragon. You have these tanks that like to show up and set up a lot of just straightforward fights. And it allows you to play a very simple game plan. You know what's going to be happening. You know what you're going to be doing next. And when everybody is on the same kind of page, it allows you to just kind of go for these brawling team fights and just say, hey, we know how to play this style, we're going to be better at it, and you have to try and find some way to upset the rock wall that we've built up.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like Harrisburg is sort of this well-oiled machine. We know how they are going to play, we know what champions they're likely to pick, but they're still going to do it well, and they still have a very, very good chance in this series. But, kicking it over to MSU, TJ, what are your thoughts on how this team likes to play?
So I'd say it's the complete opposite. Not to say that it's bad or worse, just that it's not as standard. You'll see some incredible picks coming out today, I'm sure, something that we've probably never seen before. They have some role swaps going on. They have players that maybe don't have as much structure, so there's less like bang, 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 drill sergeant type stuff, and it's more how can we scrap together a win. So I'm super excited for the fact that we might see some spicy picks. Zethal was a mid laner, so that poses a lot of questions for the bot lane. We have ArgentumSky, who loves to roam around, playing a bunch of fighting champions, linking up with RBM. So overall, it should be a super exciting matchup, and it should be really, really, really interesting to see what spice has been prepared, because that's where maybe the scrappy part can break down a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the homies part is coming in, right? That's what we get to see with all the back and forth. And Dylan, earlier in the day, you even said like the best roster you ever played with was when everybody was just hanging out after practice, just going and having a good time. And when you have the ability to human swap, as in swap players between different positions in the middle of a series, that's a really potent weapon that a lot of teams won't necessarily know how to deal with it, as long as you're able to just play off that kind of instinct that you have when you have that level of camaraderie. I'd be really curious to see if it happens today. I'm not expecting it to happen, but it's something that if you just have it in your back pocket, makes it incredibly difficult to draft against you.
So, speaking of that human swap that you alluded to, Joshi, let's dive into the, at least for now, the starting jungler on HU Storm. Zile is somebody I've had my eye on for a long time. What are your thoughts on him and his champion pool?
Well, I mean, generally when we look at this guy, we think of him as the big tank player, right? You look at the Zacs, the Sejuanis, the Jarvans, anything that can be the primary engage, anything that can get things started. And as one of the seniors in his last year here at Harrisburg, he's the kind of guy who has kind of grown into a big leader of the team. And we've seen this happen, right? Last time we saw Harrisburg play, there was a lot of shorter race coming in with a lot of like the Lee Sin, a lot of the scrappy junglers. But this year, it's been really focused on making sure that Zile in his senior year will have plenty of opportunities to continue playing and leading the teams into their engages.
Speaking a little more on Harrisburg, they do have the potential to swap their players as well. They do have a full 10-man roster, so they can add to that.
Yeah.
Swapping over to MSU, though, in comparison here, we have RBM, who's also a senior. He tends to pick more of the carry-style characters, like obviously Kha'Zix's picture on screen here, but he obviously loves Viego, anything that can really fight and brawl, because he links up with his support ArgentumSky and causes chaos on the map. In the round of 32, he invades enemy Raptors at level 2 or 3. Like, there's tons of variance in this, and so I'm super excited specifically on the jungle matchup to see Zile's more chill, laid back, role playing, tank engaged support style create leads for the team, or is RBM's chaos gonna reign supreme?
I feel like we're getting like all different styles of junglers today, right? Because we also got to highlight earlier in the day the way that Colthrow was playing versus Winston. Because like Winston was playing a lot. Well, at least today he was playing a lot of the volley bear. He's like, but give me a lot of resources. I'm going to carry the game. Colthrow is willing to take a step back. But now it's going. Well, he was doing that on like bruisers and scrappers. But now we're getting the tank play coming through from Zile and a wild game plan coming out on the other side. So it feels every single quadrant of the different style of jungling is coming out today, and I can't wait to see how these guys are going to go head to head.
Zile's tank play actually looked more like carry play, though, because he got a double kill on Zac early game, or maybe just single kill, but, you know, he got to escape early game. RBM was on the desk commenting that game. He was like, Zac just spawns in his god mode now, so that's something to watch out for. It actually got banned the second game in the Harrisburg series, so maybe Zile does show up as a carry.
It is such a spicy pick. I mean, I for one, am a fan of tank junglers. I know a lot of people think they're a low resident sleeper, but I wouldn't mind to see some Sejuani, maybe some Zac, some Jarvan. I don't know. Throw something in there. I just love watching Zile play because he can just get fights started. But guys, we have only a couple minutes left before we dive into our second series, and you know what that means? It is prediction time. Let's see what my big brain analysts picked, and
we're all the same.
All have the same prediction. Okay. All right, TJ, let's start with you first, my friend. MSU 2-1. Why are you going with MSU?
So I think that the amount of chaos that'll be caused is going to be too much. I know that RBM and ArgentumSky, they control their teammates really well, and all the teammates are really happy to play the roles that they need to do. That's not to say they don't contribute to the wins at all. They just are very willing to listen to the plays that RBM and ArgentumSky want to make, and they fill the roles relatively well. In contrast, Harrisburg, obviously, as we said, relative machine. I just don't think that if enough wrenches get thrown in, they're going to be able to adapt quickly enough to be able to take a win. This could go either way. I'm not sitting here saying that MSU is going to be like the cleanest 2-1 of all time, but I do think MSU will squeak out a win.
Yeah, I'm in a very similar spot here to TJ because I feel like looking at what we've seen coming out from Michigan State, there's a lot of opportunities for them to create chaos. And we also saw a very similar thing when Winston and Gorka as kind of the leaders of their team previously. You can really elevate everybody else on your team to play at your level. If you just say, follow my lead, follow what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be strong, and make sure that you can back me up. players that we aren't necessarily individually expecting a whole lot of are going to be looking really, really strong because they are on board with things that are going to be happening. And I think if Harrisburg is able to win, it's actually a big testament to, especially on the coaching staff, being able to turn things around and making the rest of their players more adaptable than just the stock standard way that they've been playing so far.
I love the points. MSU 2-1 across the board. That means we're going the distance for this final series. At least that's what we think. But in order to get there, we got to get through at least game one. Travysty, Rebel Fox, take us away with the second series.
We're here ready for the second series indeed. My name is Travysty. I'm joined here with Rebel Fox. Rebel, we are going into game number 2, and the desk, very much so. There's 2 woods across the table, man. Everybody is expecting this series to go the distance.
I don't think it's unreasonable to have those kinds of expectations. We've got 2 absolute masterclass teams here that are, again, to say that there were matchups inside of the round of 16 that we could have seen potentially round of 8, round of 4 in areas like that is not completely out of the question. And this is definitely 2 of those teams as they live up to that expectation as well. It's one of the prime matchups that I was looking at in the round of 16, trying to figure out exactly what was going to happen because there's just so many different ways that this series could go. But obviously our analysts are aligned in their ideas of how things go. And I think a lot of people probably share a similar sentiment.
And it's so curious to me that we have just 2 completely different teams here between the 2. Like, you look at this Michigan State taking on Harrisburg. I don't think you could find 2 collegiate squads at the top of their program that are more different from one another.
So there's a little bit of contrast in that regard because there are similarities to some of the ways that they play, but I think what you're trying to dig to is that, like, MSU is the last team anyone wants to play because they are impossible to prepare for, right? They will hit you with something random out of nowhere, and they are absolute monsters at being able to pull strategies out of the hat and to be able to work with. And part of that, I think, is attributed to having some of the best coaching that exists, especially in like non-funded programs, so student-ran organizations. They've got to have some of the best coaching in the country for just those organizations alone. Harrisburg, on the other hand, they have a similar coaching structure. They have a lot more structure to everything that they do, even though they have really incredible coaching to be able to develop those styles of how League of Legends is supposed to be played with ex-professionals all over the place. That's why we consider these 2 very different, even though both of them are really, really heavily coaching-centric type programs that have incredible leaders to be able to explain and come up with new ideas. MSU is kind of like the wild card where they could beat any team on any day with some ridiculous nonsense. And Harrisburg is the team that feels incredibly structured, like we know how they're expecting to come out and play a game, which is why subverting these expectations for game number 1 to me is key on both sides to trying to figure out what structure does MSU come out with and how does Harrisburg actually shake things up.
If you hand these teams the same book with a strategy on how to beat each other, one will read it, which would be Harrisburg, and they'll be like, yes, interesting. We'll use this game plan. And MSU is the team that will take the book, close it, and use it as a weapon, right? Like, that is what we're in store for here, and we're in store for a fantastic game. We're getting ready for the draft. We've got Harrisburg on the blue side, Michigan State on the red side.
And it's really incredible because both these programs are like they've been at the top of collegiate League of Legends for such a long time, and a large part of that, Harrisburg was one of the first, just like varsity programs in general in esports. They've been incredible in not just this, but in Overwatch and any other game, and they continue to expand those games by the year. And they're usually at the top of, if not the top of, most of those games as well, being able to perform at the highest level. Michigan State, for the most part, again, this is a student-ran organization that's been at or near the top of the North for such a long time. A large part of that is due to coaching. A large part of that also is due to the presence of RBM. And so here, I'm not saying that this is a last-ditch run, not saying MSU can't come back with a roster, but again, this is the last run back here for RBM inside of collegiate. So I'm excited to see what they're able to pull up against, again, one of these perpetual teams that's been at or near the top of collegiate for such a long time in all walks of life in Harrisburg.
I do want to say, we're going through some of these bans already, and there's the Garen ban already. Rebel, you were talking about the chaos. This is a squad of delinquents. They will pull up the Garen easily on Sunlight, and Sunlight becomes the villain you have to watch out for.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Sunlight has got a very unique champion pool in the top lane. Not only the Garen, but also like the Yorick and a bunch of other champions that fit into that very lane-centric style of play, where you're expecting him to remain on his own and makes it very difficult to play against. It epitomizes Michigan State, right? You go against a Garen in the laning phase, and he queues you for like half your health bar, and you're like, this is so frustrating for no reason. Michigan State is exactly the same way. They are such a frustrating team to play for absolutely no reason. They also told me earlier in the week that they had Spice ready for this draft specifically. Obviously, the new patch came in, right? I don't have actually information on what they want. They don't want to provide to me what it is that they're going to be doing, but I know for a fact that the last time that I had to go up against Incon in this challenge, I got the best of him with his Kiana pick in the mid lane, but I didn't do as much to be able to make that prediction this time, so he wins this round, but I'm excited to see what they've got prepared.
Me too. Bans are finishing up. Another question, Harrisburg. What do you want? What is your first pick? What are you grabbing for yourselves?
It's a great question. Now, this is a team that has typical structure to it. I wouldn't be shocked to see them go to something, either inside of the jungle for Zile or maybe at ADC if they really are firmly believing that something like Caitlyn or something like Xayah, even after the nerfs, is going to be valuable enough for Hopeful to take onto the bottom side of the map. But I think playing down towards the bottom side isn't a bad option. That is a very bold first pick.
A Gnar right off the get-go says, yo, I know you like to play the champions that like to run at you. I'll play a ranged champion that can run away. So that's the option.
Yes!
Hey, what?
We are already out of the game with this draft between everybody. First off, this has been one of the most powerful combinations for a long time, but after the Rengar reboot, this combination is just completely disgustingly filthy. I've seen it too many places. I heard about it last week. RBM was talking about it on the desk, and I am not shocked in the slightest that they are going to pick this out as well. Now, my curiosity comes to whether or not it's going to be like a jungle Rengar with a mid lane Ivern, if you're going to put Ivern in the top lane maybe, or even if it's a top lane Ivern with a top lane Rengar with a jungle Ivern, because Rengar can do a lot of damage to a Gnar in the early stages of the game. That's why, like, this Gnar first pick overall is so weird, because I'm like, are they trying to flex it? Are they going to try to put it in the bot lane, maybe with a Senna or something? Like, are they going to put it in the mid lane? I'm so lost as to why they're going for a first pick Gnar when you have a team like Michigan State that's willing to exploit it.
Well, they also just slammed that, so they were like, they saw Gnar and were like, I'm not bothered, go. And here's the interesting thing, Harrisburg, they've picked up their jungle. They've picked up their mid lane. Their solo lanes are completely shown. They got their jungle completely shown. They've left their marksman and their support for the very end of the draft.
Okay. This would be another interesting little grab. Okay. We are in complete disarray mode, because we also heard last week about RBM talking about just how incredibly powerful the jungle Mordekaiser was going to be. And so now we are just all over the place. Yeah, see, here's the thing. Incon told me that they had spice ready by sending me salt and pepper shakers, right? I wasn't ready for this, right? Like, he didn't send me like insane spices or like the spiciest peppers or anything like that. Like no Diablo peppers, anything like that. That's what it should have been when he sent me. That's the images I should be receiving, not salt and pepper. We have 3 champions that could very easily be flexed into both lanes and jungles in very specific circumstances. So my anticipation is it is going to be top lane Mordekaiser, almost certainly, for something to try to punish the Gnar. That does not mean by any standard it has to be.
I want to bring home the thing that Michigan State are just a bunch of delinquents. Like, they're the characters that roll around on the motorcycle with the baseball bats. They're absolute chaos, and we're already seeing that in the draft, and it hasn't even been completed. It's still a mystery on where a majority of where Michigan State are planning to put their resources inside of. We do see the Nets pick. This should give us a little bit more clarity, I think.
Okay, so the big thing is that there is no Inter remaining. This makes things even more complex, because now you've got a Senna to throw into the bottom lane, so we're not even going to talk about this draft. The biggest thing is that I love that Harrisburg has taken away the option for enchanters out of the bottom lane. ArgentumSky was very adamant about the fact that while he is a brilliant mind about the game and he's got decent enough hands to play in the support position, he's not good at the support role. And so they put him on enchanters. They put him on pocket things to help out Zethal and to help out the team in a number of situations. And so they're pinching him off of that, forcing him into something else maybe a little bit different. Now the question is, what does he have that's able to pair alongside the Senna? Because now you have the possibility of fasting. You put the Rengar there. Do you put the Ivern down there? Like, what exactly are you planning on doing? Because it is about as stock standard a composition from Harrisburg as you could have ever possibly asked for, right? You got Gnar, you've got Viktor Aphelios, you've got scaling, you've got teamfight, Zile's on his Trundle. There is nothing crazy about this. This is something that we probably could have seen coming for a pretty decent distance from Harrisburg without too much forethought. But Michigan State's all over the place. The question is, where exactly are they putting everything?
It looks like it's an Ivern mid because they're hovering the Thresh right now. Okay, they switched over last moment. That is a Vayne. So we have a support Senna, a Vayne, AD carry, and a mid lane Ivern.
No. Is that Vayne top here? I think is what's gonna happen. Really? No. Okay, it's gonna be the double marksman bottom lane, which is a little. Yeah. Coming in, I thought I was going to be Vayne top for Sunlight to test into the Gnar and just be like, all right, I'll beat you in auto-attacking battles. I don't really care all that much. But yeah, Sunlight does take the Mordekaiser, not shocking. It is just going to be the jungle mid combination, of course, of that Rengar and that Ivern, which we've heard so much about, so much power has gone into since the rework of the Rengar, and fills alongside that RBM narrative of him wanting to be the carry, wanting the gold. This is exactly the type of player to be able to take a pick like this and make it work on one of the bigger stages that we have in Collegiate. They want top 8 so badly, and you can see it in this strat. They are pulling no punches against Harrisburg in game number 1.
And yet again, to just reiterate the point, the storyline here, Harrisburg are the by-the-book team, and then you look over at the other side, and you look at what's here, man. It's just so much spice inside of this draft. And this is game number 1 that they're looking to bring this into. They're looking to come in here swinging, while Harrisburg, like you said, they have a very standard draft. This is a draft that I feel like you can go onto just about any broadcast, and this is a very likely draft to see. You got Viktor mid, like you were talking about, a Gnar on the top side. You've got the Trundle in the jungle, and you've got this Aphelios paired together with something like a Tahm Kench or something that can support it and keep it alive. But it's just Michigan State.
They have so many ways to throw a wrench into how standard the composition is from Harrisburg. First off, you actually get a great top lane matchup, right? Mid lane is really quiet, and it means that the Ivern should be perfectly fine being able to even put some damage into the Viktor to have better lane control than you'd normally expect, because it takes a minute for the Viktor laser to get online and be able to wave clear and things, which means the mid jungle combination is going to be active, I think, a little even sooner than you'd normally expect for MSU. And beyond all of that, they still have like Zethal behind all of it, so just like 1v5 carry if they need to, alongside Argentum, like, who's got this range to work with. My one problem is they're kind of low range, right? Like, you got 2 melees, you've got Ivern who's ranged, but I think it's a little difficult to expect him to put out damage, and Vayne is a little lower range, and of course Senna's your support in a game like this, so you're just going to be collecting souls, not being able to have that much gold, which means Harrisburg, I mean, they could hit lasers from a distance, they could hit massive Moonlight Vigils from Hopeful, and I think that's your expectation, is if they land really powerful ultimates preemptively to a fight, then I think it's harder for MSU to pull off something like this if the game is, of course, even. I don't think MSU wants to walk out in an even state game. They want to walk out smacking people from minute number 1, which is why I'm most interested in what Zile's able to do. Feels like Zile is on a champion that will not be taken advantage of by the Rengar as easily, because he's decent enough at being able to fight in the early stage of the game. Trundle is very good in the one-on-one against AD champions and has the presence to be able to deny some of the aggression in lanes.
Here we go. We're going into game number 1 here. Harrisburg Storm on the blue side and Michigan State on the red side. There is an exhaust on the Mordekaiser.
TP is taken out of the meta. Everybody can take any summoner spell you want, man. And now Sunlight, this would be considered a crime inside of an ARAM, right? Because you're not allowed to take that summoner spell. But here on Summoner's Rift, all things are equal in love and war. And so they're now walking up. It looks like it was actually a solid scout from Emps, because he was hanging around in the mid lane, making sure to see that they weren't going to shift back up into top side, waiting for somebody to poke their head in through the tri-brush. Solid scouting from MSU to notice that Harrisburg does this from time to time. They did buy space for Lawrence to be able to use this Gnar in the tri-brush to potentially cut off the path from Sunlight, unless they get just like a really disgusting wraparound right here. I don't think that they're doing that. Yeah, they're just poking around to see if anybody actually stuck around, and nobody did. So hopefully, if RBM decides to go for a solo red buff, it means that it's unlikely that Sunlight gets punished for it, because he could have wrapped around. But with the... Oh no! Lawrence is leaving. I thought Lawrence was going to stay and just poke away at Sunlight as he entered the laning phase, which could have definitely been helpful for it, but Lawrence decides against it.
Yeah, Lawrence says, I'm just going to play it safe. Doesn't want to get caught out in any kind of ridiculous scenario. And I'm very curious to see what Harrisburg's game plan is going to be. I want to know if this is something that they were prepared for, right? Because it is something that is very hard to get preparation for a insane strategy like this, and how they respond to it.
You want to know what the answer is? The answer is almost certainly no. Like, if someone picked this, like I've heard about this, like in a number of situations, that like if someone picks a team like this, how do you scrim against this, right?
Yeah.
Like you just like you get to 5 minutes and the comp is either so far down that you're like this was a waste of time, or so far up they're smashing you.
Getting
That's
jumped onto,
immediate.
Ignite, Exhaust immediately traded between marksmen. Sky getting bullied a bit.
We start off with Loopk being able to get on top of these double range bottom lane. And this is something I talk about with Senna lanes all the time, that if you go for something greedy like this where you do double marksman, it's a lot easier to try to punish when you've got full engage and the damage to back it up. So level 2 from Hopeful now means that they can take a full-on engagement if they have the ability to do so with his positioning where, comparative to Loopk. And Loopk is a very experienced veteran in League of Legends. Has been around since like 2012, has played professionally as well in some of the other regions that have existed. Now bottom lane once again.
Yet again. And then this time it's the flash blow, but look at the damage traded back. Hopeful looking to see if he can finish off Sky. But no, he is able to live.
I can't tell if it's baiting from ArgentumSky because he's just too intelligent, or if actually they like are overextending for the kill. That's RBM ready to make a strike, and they have to know if they cleared from top to bottom, then like they are in very bad position to get punished right there. So yeah, they back off immediately. Their wave in a pretty rough place as well. So props to the side of Harrisburg being able to read that that was going to be a very rough situation for them if they stuck around any longer. Just able to get the push out, able to get a little bit. They are forced on it back with that health trade going very heavily to the side of MSU. Buys a bit of breathing room here for ArgentumSky and Zile.
Very interesting too to see. Lawrence actually left his lane for a little bit just to get a ward on the Krugs. That way he can possibly spot the Rengar coming from that direction. And you can see Lawrence doing a good job. You know, he's able to keep out of range of sunlight. He's making sure to use those boomerangs, trying to take advantage of that ranged into melee matchup. I kind of my eyes keep going back to the mid lane here because you got scaling versus an Ivern. And it's been a long time since I've gotten to see an Ivern mid.
Yeah, since the beginning of the split, because it was a hotness for a little while, but then it started to cool off in a couple of different areas, and so since then we haven't really seen all that much in terms of like Enchanter combined with something very powerful. But this is one of those duos that really kind of epitomize that. As now we're waiting for the expectations of this early game to come to fruition. We're waiting for RBM and Lance to make their first strike somewhere on the map, because before that, again, you do have a more standard bot lane. You've got a lot of wave clear in the mid lane and a lot of poke potentially in the mid lane, so the Ivern is just going to be soaking waves for the most part. And like you said, the range advantage for the Gnar is something that Lawrence, one of the more kind of practiced and experienced members here on the side of Harrisburg, is able to exploit better than a lot of other top laners might be able to, right? This is a matchup that's good for Mordekaiser, but not at the beginning of the game.
Getting caught out of position. Nice pillar into gravity field, but it's not a stun. No CC able to keep this Ivern stuck in place.
Wow. So typically this is a gank that against a lot of control laners, any sort of I think I'm reaching off their vision. That is such a menacing combination when it comes together right there. As now, like I said, what I was trying to like attest to is like against most control mages, like that is actually a really lethal gank, but ends up not being the case because of the Q. And of course, I don't know how Lance didn't get stunned in that gravity field. I'm going to be honest. I thought he was there for way longer than it was necessary, but somehow was able to sneak out. So good on him being able to get out of that one. As you can see, Sunlight also willing to take the one-on-one against Lawrence. Had to burn the exhaust in exchange for Lawrence's flash, but that is a trade of summoners that is positive, as now Sunlight has the flash advantage to take advantage of the Gnar matchup on top side as well. A lot of things kind of struck all at once.
Yeah, that struck me as kind of curious, especially since they're on the cusp of hitting 6, right? Have that ultimate ability to support the play if you want to go for it. Say, Gnar, I'm tired of you hopping away from me. You're stuck in here with me now. As you can see, RBM is trying to find some place to be able to gank, but he's not able to find a lane that is in a position. And it feels like Harrisburg definitely showed a bit of caution. They saw one bush go over to the side, and they were just like, no, not playing this game. He could be there. So.
And this is where the safety of Harrisburg, I think, really makes a difference, because there are a lot of teams in Collegiate that would fall victim to allowing RBM to really heavily snowball on the Rengar to kick things off, even if it be like just because of the sake of being able to pull resource, right? But in this case, Harrisburg is willing to sacrifice resources to ensure that the really big crux of this composition does not get going very quickly. RBM wants this Rengar to be the menace that it needs to be inside of a game like this. It actually means very heavily that he's trying to push up. They're using this vision control, trying to get him into a perfect position in the bottom brush. Able to work with. Oh, I thought he snuck there. The vision toggle seemed like there was maybe an opening, but Fortunately, there is not. Can't get Loopk to be baited forward, so instead just the back coming through. And again, RBM waiting for that level 6, potentially the first time that we're going to see the Rengar start to make an aggressive play somewhere on the map.
Look at the danger. Zile is in the wings, coming through the tri-brush, and Loopk is looking to possibly take a voyage. But no, it is just going to be Zile taking his trip to the Scuttle Crab. Every jungler's best friend.
And now with the push on bottom side, and with the Tahm Kench Aphelios combination, you have a lot of potential to go for a dragon here. They're actually looking for a bit of pushing on bottom side. I'm a little curious what that was for, unless Zile just decides to leave. So I guess it was just like, if you step back into lane and they step up to you, you don't want that to come through. But one way or another, I thought they were going to go for dragon. Zile can definitely solo at this point, and they must not know where RBM is, or not have any idea where he's at right now, because otherwise I feel like you would have started that immediately, just taken that one.
Immediate respect flash used. Loop is able to disengage. Root did connect onto Hopefulx as well. Just concentrates going back and forth. 8 minutes in, no bloodshed here on the Rift.
Not quite, as level 6 is actually achieved right now by RBM. Lance is level 7 as well, so you do have access to that ultimate and get a lot easier to work with here. Lance, I wonder if he's been doing this whole laning phase. I know we haven't had a chance to really sit on mid lane,
Yeah.
but if he's just been baiting that, like that's actually genius from him, if that's truly the mind games he's trying to play. But this is where the mid jungle can really start to pop off. The threat of Rengar jumping in on you at the level 6 mark to be able to find something. Lawrence specifically would be a little terrified if he didn't have Zile in the river currently sitting here. And this, I think, was the whole intention of not taking the dragon, was wanting to deny the early gold advantage from Michigan State, where they're trying to get it onto RBM. Nice swap up from Loopk to get here. In fact, Hopefulx here too. This is a 5-man swap into Rift Herald.
Daisy is here as well. Don't worry. Sending her on in. Get a little bit of CC applied. We got a bit of a scuffle here. The root is there. They're looking for the place. Absolute chaos breaks out. The flash comes in from Really Big Meme. He eats up some fruit. The Death Realm has been used. The fight continues in this close quarters position. And it's still the fight. Nobody falls. Nobody drops.
Oh, both sides playing so respectfully right there to make sure they do not collapse under the pressure that the other is applying. Back to the Rift Herald goes Harrisburg. Emps is still wrapped around. They saw him approach from the left. They want to go for it.
He hops in. He's trying to see if he can find the kill. Hopefulx strapped up so low. He goes down. First blood. Gets second for Michigan, but look at Lawrence into the back line. Getting a huge stun up. Is laying in some good damage, but it doesn't matter as MSU almost get an ace 9 minutes into the game.
Goodness gracious, the only team that probably takes with this kind of setup as Harrisburg, MSU's got to be the one roster in the entirety of Collegiate. Do not just go to Dragon and take that one instead and take your scaling. Instead, they opt for the 5-on-5. They don't end up getting the Rift Herald, but they do get this gold advantage that I think we're looking for. Not on the Rengar, but the person that I was watching in that fight go crazy was Zethal, Matt. Zethal went absurdly strong inside of a fight like that. He was untouched, able to put out the damage as necessary into anybody that was in front of him. And yes, the Rift Herald goes down. Harrisburg gets to salvage that. But again, the Dragon and the fight win to MSU is a massive tick in their favor.
Massive indeed. Getting the Dragon. It's great for the side of MSU as they pick up one chaotic fight for themselves, and I believe we have a replay, just that way they can reiterate exactly how this chaos went about.
So, if they have any AoE damage right here, 3-4 person knockup is insane. Unfortunately, RBM's not AP Rengar, and he doesn't have any itemization, so he can't really clean up, but shoves them back. But you can notice, they want to poke forward. They want to kill here on MSU, but their lack of range. They can't walk up into Emps. They can't walk up into the Viktor, who goes back to capture the mid wave, and I think this was kind of the thing that really tore everything apart, is that all of Harrisburg wasn't in the river. They jump back in with RBM, and then, of course, their front line starts to finally fall. Notice Zethal as well. He is in a position on the bottom of the fight. No one contesting him at all. Instead, they go into the bulk of the people on MSU, but there's no damage remaining. Emps was too focused on Zethal, and it meant that they could focus one target at a time, and the Rift Herald the only thing they get in that situation.
Back into the action. We're seeing fights happening across the map. Sunlight getting jumped upon as Lawrence trying to get a bit of an advantage, while the Rengar Ivern duo looking to press the attack forward inside of this jungle. This is just... we come back from a replay, and this is what I've been expecting going into this.
Yeah, everything's getting a little bit more wild. Things starting to ramp up. Every time we get action, we just like waiting on bated breath to see how it turns out. Love this from Zile as well. Getting the Aphelios, getting Hopeful into a positive position. Well, like Hopeful is like the Aphelios. You can do damage from long range. Has all this AoE to be able to work with against ASU or MSU. It's the opening that I think that they really are looking for to try to exploit. Talking about, again, there's a lot of collegiate players that have gone from collegiate into professional play. Harrisburg has put a couple of them there themselves, one of them being Wixie. Hopeful was the backup to Wixie last season, as Wixie is like now a like Academy finalist, just in one split later in his first split on 100 Thieves, which is really incredible. Hopeful was also one of these players that fit the very, very heavy mold of like being able to carry, being able to weak side on like Ezreal, and having those kind of shticks to himself. That are very akin to what Wixie is able to do. And so having him on one of these hyper carries is, I think, faith that's able to be held up, right? Like when you have a standard style of play, when you have a standard composition, you always look at the ADC as supposed to be the backbone of the damage on that team, and Hopeful is one of the ADCs that's capable of living up to that expectation.
Key thing to take note of too, we got to see a Vayne earlier on in the day with a much differing build. You do see that this Vayne is going more for that shield bow, looking more for that dueling prowess, as we saw the other Vayne that we saw earlier today, piloted by Gorka, go for that Bork Rage Blade combo to start things off. But here we go, Death Realm, Sunlight trying to get aggressive on the Lawrence, but he's kiting this out beautifully. But here comes Really Big Meme. He's invisible, he jumps in, but the Mega Gnar comes in. It doesn't matter. There's a shield. It's fine as nobody gets dropped. It's a nice kill in the top lane.
Sunlight was basically under no threat that entire time. That shield, the ability to heal afterwards, all the damage you got in a single target with the exhaust really wasn't under anything. Lawrence did about his damnedest to really get out of that situation unscathed, but handing the kill over to RBM is massive because, again, it's the start of the snowball, attempting to get the Rengar and get advantage positioned in this game.
Can't grab the tower just yet. You see them being a little bit feisty and doing such Ivern
Nice
here to play some
defense.
good D. The Daisy called out, looking to chase this Trundle away. Zethal Sky are here. Not going to find themselves in the dive scenario that they were almost inside of.
Yep. They want to step up. They want to get this tower,
want
but
that
they
tower
know
so
they
bad.
can't. They're paying a lot of respect. This is Harrisburg. Harrisburg doesn't make over-aggressions all that often. If anything, they are a team that does not take aggressive positions too often and find themselves where like they leave things on the map in exchange for very, very heavy safety. This is why, even against teams that they are significantly better than, they end up having games that go like 28, 30 minutes consistently, and it's because they don't want to make mistakes. They want clean League of Legends where all they are doing is taking what they are allowed and nothing more, not pushing for anything even if it is on the table in the right circumstance. They don't take low percentage plays, they take only high percentage stuff. And right there you can see, rather than trying to step up, rather than trying to get one auto attack onto the tower, they pay respect. They say, okay, we're not taking the chance that Lance is going to be able to land a Q and they can hit everybody here in one fell swoop. Instead, we will wait and we will push this tower down.
The mantra is greed equals feed, and they're looking to get fed here. Hopeful flashing forward, a beautiful pillar as well, but Sky able to position himself for success. Emps is on the side now, joining in. They said, screw it, we're making this play happen. This tower will belong to us as they dedicate 4 members. But here comes the teleport. Really Big Meme is on the way as well, has the throw of the hunt, but it's just the Ivern teleporting in. Rengar doesn't follow through with it. They move right back over to this mid lane.
And the respect being paid to the TP, not knowing where RBM is, means that they just have no idea whether the Rengars could be able to jump in and do damage. Even with a Tahm Kench, even with a Viktor who's going to be able to zone them away with a stopwatch, they are so terrified of what that 4-on-4 can look like in the wrong circumstances that they pull away and they still don't get bottom tower. Now they should be able to push forward in the right circumstances. But it's going to open up Rift Herald on the top side of the map, which is gold earned back for Michigan State. As first tower finally going to fall here, as Harrisburg grabs that one up off the back of that previous play coming through, but it did buy time for Michigan State to put themselves in a position to make a strike back elsewhere.
I like this answer from Harrisburg, though. They've gotten themselves a nice little bit of a lead back for themselves. They have found themselves in a situation where, yes, they lost a chaotic fight, but it was almost like a reminder of who they're going against. Like, oh, this is the type of team that will just do the opposite of what you think they're going to do. So Harrisburg showing respect, being very respectful, and just giving the zone. They're saying, hey, yo, if it's not free, we're not going to take it. If it doesn't cost us anything, we might take it. But we have to weigh our options. We have to weigh what the consequences may be.
And with about 1,000 gold lead, there's not a massive advantage in this game, but it is much slower than what Michigan really wanted this game to be for themselves. They wanted to start the Rengar off on the right foot, be able to do more. Now Sunlight fancies his chances against the mini Gnar. I fancy his chances as well. Look at that. So gross. RBM also, he just wants to kill Pilford. Part of me like knows that they're communicating this. The other part of me kind of hopes that they're not, and he's just yoinking those kills from Sunlight. But almost certainly not the case.
I like the picture of the comms of Sunlight, just like, I got this kill, please, I got this, please.
Nah, I see. I like to imagine that's the case, but it's certainly not, because Michigan State finally taking advantage of the top side. Again, the blind pick Gnar was so weird for us for a number of reasons, and it's because it's punishable. So you throw Mordekaiser in the lane, that alone, as you can see, already has a pretty significant way of being able to take the one-on-one against the Gnar in its own right, but you throw a Rengar into it where the Rengar gets to punish as well, and now you're in a position where the Rengar has 2 kills that probably wouldn't be there otherwise. So maybe something to consider for next game is you just don't go blinding the Gnar in the top lane. That, the Mordekaiser and the Rengar are in the back foot for this Michigan State team. At least something to consider. Lawrence hasn't been playing it particularly poorly, but again, this is a tough matchup already, and when you start leaning into it on the side of Michigan State, they can exploit it for a lot of good reasons, and I love that they've actually started shifting into it, because this is the one part of the map I feel like that has really been going their way.
I agree. Zile over on the wings as well. Really big meme is here to play, here to make sure to keep Harrisburg at bay, and it's just going to be the disengage. And as we've seen time and time again, Harrisburg paying the respect that is due. Whenever they see somebody else show up on the map, they say, all right, we'll take a moment back, we'll recalculate the formula, we'll come back and crunch the numbers for success.
And now there's a piece of this game that I think that we've avoided up until this point. We actually might still have to avoid it just off the back of some pressure being put here in the jungle.
Oh,
yeah, about 2 minutes.
Loop goes in. Sky caught out of position. He's going to get deleted. The Moonlight Vigil comes in, and it weighs down upon really big meme into the jaws of death. He flashes over and finds the jaws of life inside of the Ivern. Chaos Storm is a brewing.
No!
And gets rebound and slammed to the ground. Oh.
What a tragedy coming out here, because RBM dies, and that means that there already wasn't going to be much of a defense for the mid lane. I guess they won't push for it too far here, which is shocking. I feel like they could just sit here and auto attack down the tower if they really wanted to, but again, not pushing for anything more than they get. Walking into topside, getting 2 kills against this team, especially with this setup, to be able to actually put Lawrence in a better position to start pushing Emps into a better position. The cross map, of course, is being responded to by Sunlight, but man, that was the first time I think in this tournament I've seen Harrisburg make that aggressive a step into the opposing jungle just to find kills.
And that's the kind of steps you got to make if you want to go in the top 8, though. Sometimes you do have to make those risky plays that aren't 100% calculated for success. Maybe you have to go for those aggressive stuff. Sometimes you have to go on the offensive, and Harrisburg showing that expertly here. Inside this replay, you can even see how they set up for this.
Yeah, the pillar is a really difficult thing to deal with, especially as the Senna. And then, RBM uses the ultimate to try to get out, gets caught up by the Tahm Kench. I loved that right there. It was very incredible. The Gore Drinker to get health back and everything else. This is where it all goes wrong.
Oh,
no! It's so painful, man. Oh, I didn't even want to see it again, but I just can't take my eyes off it. It's terrible.
It's like a cat trying to not get put into the bathtub, right? He's just trying not to get into the water. His claws are out. He's on all grabbing on for dear life, but right now it might be the side of Harrisburg gripping on for dear life. The aggression coming out from Michigan State. They're not able to find the kills that they so choose to grab, as it is the defense from Harrisburg that come in. They disengage beautifully. Lawrence is about to go Mega Gnar here. They are all clumped up as a group of 5, but a beautiful root keeps Lawrence in place. The fight around the dragon is going to be huge.
Oh, goodness gracious. The Narbar is ticking down, though. That's the one fear. Ultimate's still available for Zethal. Ultimate's still available for RBM and for the Mordekaiser, which is the big one to be able to pull Zile away from this dragon. Harrisburg has to be careful. They got to get the Narbar back up if they really want a chance at this.
Yeah, This Michigan, they don't want to get into a point. He's at his weakest moment right now for Lawrence, but the rest of the members are so terrifying. They don't want to give this Aphelios ahead. Here we go. They jump onto the Tahm Kench, but Thomas Kench takes those. He finds himself a kill, and now it's a fight around the dragon. Still Sky trying to see what he can do with the Vayne, and Sunlight trying to see if he can grab a hold of anybody, but nothing is coming up in favor of Michigan State. They are losing members left and right as it goes one by one. The Ivern nets to drop. You can press the shield, but it's still a double kill going in favor of Harrisburg.
And this is the problem I was referring to just a minute ago that I wanted to talk about when all of these plays started to really heavily go to Harrisburg, which is how does MSU play out this late game, right? They don't have this massively advantaged Rengar. They've got a mid lane Enchanter, which is gorgeous. They've got Mordekaiser to peel off layers of this composition from Harrisburg. But if they play a standard 5-on-5, there are problems, especially with no advantage, whether your Rengar is not able to erase somebody or you're playing more of a frontliner. That came into fruition right here. Watch RBN. He jumps into the fight, basically erased immediately. Sunlight also, he pulls Zile out so that he could try to kill him, so that he could try to keep him away from the dragon, but there's no smite for your team either to grab the dragon away, and now you're pushed completely out. Again, no real range. ArgentumSky isn't really strong, doesn't have itemization to work with on the Senna to really be this damage dealer for a carry, and because of that, everything falls to pieces for MSU. Everything from Harrisburg planned out accordingly. They are trying to keep this game all together in one fine knit bow, and it's working. They have prevented Michigan State from being the delinquents that they truly are.
Taking the baseball bat, they have taken away the keys to the motorcycle. They've unstyled their hair. There's all sorts of things that go in Michigan State's favor at the current moment in time. And one of the big ones is Hopeful on this Aphelios, untouched in that last fight. 2-1-4. This is a raid boss here between him and this Viktor, who are now scaled up into a terrifying territory.
Ooh. In a position now where it feels like Michigan State, they want to bunker a little bit, but they need to double back and just figure out how they want to play out situations like this, because they've been struggling to do so. Emps
jumps in, gets a little bit of a shield, getting a lot of damage onto Zile, but Zile is able to survive so much of his Sunlight, is trying to run down Emps, but it's just not enough. He'll fight you on your home turf. It is Sunlight that is gone. As it's Michigan State routed completely off of the fight. Throw the Hunt was popped, and Lawrence wasn't even there.
Yeah, Lawrence was in the other side of the map. You think that the ultimate from Sunlight was going to generate something massive. This is the TP coming in to protect this minion so they continue to siege down into the turret of Michigan State. It's such a tough position to be in. Again, low range, not that much advantage for Michigan State to start things off. Haven't been able to snowball anything the way that you would want to. They've been just forced against time and time again. Harrisburg has kept this game so standard for so long that now you're playing against a composition that is really well constructed in what it's able to do in all walks of life. As Michigan State, again, attempts to hold their base right here and right now. Baron Buff might do them in.
Check this out. They're looking really big meme. One last desperate fight, but the Sunlight is getting eviscerated by the storm. It's a cloudy day for this Mordekaiser. Michigan State have lost 2 key members. It is only 3 left standing, but the Viktor will make sure to shrink those numbers as time goes on. Time and time again, Harrisburg play to their strategy, and they're going to pick up game number 1.
They keep everything held together. They let nothing loose. Michigan State has no opportunities to strike in this game without forcing something massive. There's the one play around the Rift Herald that went against the side of Harrisburg because the fight fell to pieces around them. But outside of that, Harrisburg played as clean a game as they could to give no ways for Michigan State to accelerate this in any way. The 2 kills top were just off the Mordekaiser ultimate, did not matter. This composition, which was really weird and funky to start with, is difficult to play, especially with no advantage, and man, Harrisburg took advantage of it. This is the benefit to having a coaching staff and focusing in on a very unique style of gameplay, or I guess not even unique, just a very kind of blanket style of gameplay. They all know what they're trying to achieve. They make the calls proper the entire game to prevent themselves from falling victim to anything that MSU had laid out for them in terms of a trap, and they come out 1-0.
Yeah, Harrisburg, they say, all right, cool, Michigan, we see that you brought in something spicy, but guess what? They can take the heat. But we have our gents over on the desk ready to break everything down and get us prepared for what could be another chaotic game number 2. So, gents, take it on away.
Thank you, Travysty. And wow, okay, we're off to a banger of a start for this second series. I mean, what a draft and what a game. Ultimately, it feels like we're just on this theme on the LCS stream of one team gets off to a really good start and we think they're going to win the game. We start calling it behind the scenes and we're like, okay, what replays are we going to have? And then it just swaps to the other side. But let's first start with the draft like we've been doing all day. TJ, I know that MSU's draft is something you were kind of, privy to early on, but what do you think of it? How did it fit into this game?
So I'm a big fan when you're a scrappy team or maybe an underdog team of bringing things that are unique and different. If you have practice on it and the enemy team doesn't, you're pretty likely to create some leads with it. So I'm really happy to see it, but not stray too far from where they usually are. They like to play through RBM. Sunlight got a comfort champion. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think the execution was a little questionable at a couple of moments, and I think that's what caused the downfall. Harrisburg was a very stock draft. I liked the bans. I liked that Sunlight can't get Garen. I like the Respect Karthus ban, Extreme Presence this weekend. And Yuumi is a MSU champion. So I think Harrisburg did their homework and MSU just failed to execute.
Yeah, I see the pepper shaker, but I'm still looking for where the salt shaker is after that one, right? Because it was definitely something pretty wild, as you said, TJ. There were a couple spots where it's like I didn't feel like they played towards the Rengar potentially as hard as they could have, and the bottom lane didn't have as much of an impact as I would have liked to see it. But it was a wild idea. I love seeing this, and it creates a lot of questions for throughout the rest of the series. Like, are we going to bring any of these back? Is this something that you're going to have to pay attention to for the rest of the draft? And is there anything different you wish you had banned instead?
So, the Rengar Ivern, while it didn't end up actually netting the win, there was one team fight, TJ, that I want to throw your way, where the Rengar Ivern actually did put in some work.
Yeah, so for the Rift Herald, we do end up going into a river fight, and it is a 4 versus 4. This is exactly where Ivern Rengar would succeed, river fight, early game. And so I'm not really a fan of Harrisburg even taking this. This is where MSU might be able to create enough chaos to lead the game and really control what's going to go on. The fight's pretty scrappy, obviously. Lots of flashes forward, lots of summers used, all the ults down. I had absolutely no idea who was winning this as it was occurring, and that must be really stressful to play as a player. And so the main theme here is that I'm not a fan of Harrisburg contesting this. Because in a different world, this is MSU breaking the game open and it becoming completely unwinnable. I would prefer to see Harrisburg just kind of chill, let them have it, defend mid turret. They have amazing wave clear, whereas MSU doesn't, and then go from there. Obviously, there's some impressive stuff during the clip, like the Gnar ult and all of that. But again, your champions are just too weak at this point in the game.
Yeah, conceptually, I really like the fact that MSU was willing to just take this fight, right? They're looking for opportunities. They're trying to blow open the game. They almost look like they do, right? They're jumping off to a pretty big early lead, but you have to continue to open the map. You can't just let that be the one thing that you do because, as you said, DJ, they don't have a lot of wave clear. They don't have a lot of ways to just set up and siege. You have to control the side waves. You have to control sides of the jungle. And unfortunately, we never saw that coming through. And it just felt like the inexorable trudge that we talked about from Harrisburg. I'm going to set these dragons. I'm going to just go for these disciplined team fights. Just came to fruition.
Speaking of Harrisburg and their prowess around the dragon pit, Joshi, what happened at this dragon where it seems like Harrisburg just takes over the game?
Well, the line of scrimmages are always funny whenever Ivern is there. The bush is always created, but the big thing is as soon as people start jumping in on Loop, there's no real opportunity for them to do anything, right? Because you have Rengar going forward, but who's going to follow it up? Senna's not going to be the one that's going to do it. Ivern has to hit from miles away, and because Rengar is suddenly solo frontlining, because Mordekaiser takes somebody into the Death Realm, there's not a way for them to, as a group, continue going forward. It feels like a composition that, at its core, wants to go for these wild team fights, but when you actually are forced into a front to back, you're never going to win that.
Right, so this just wasn't the fight angle that MSU needed. They need to find scrap, kill on side lanes like they did with the Mordekaiser ults and to free Rengar picks. That's really where their domain was, and Harrisburg played this dragon fight incredibly disciplined, where they chilled, they peeled back the Rengar, they one-shot him, and then they were able to take the win. On top of that, I would like to highlight that MSU did take the second dragon away from Harrisburg, and I think that shows some extreme proactivity. I know we've kind of labeled them as like a very scrappy team, but that clearly shows some pre-planning to be able to get the Rengar kills and to be able to take away second dragon, knowing that Harrisburg wants to put so much effort into them.
Yeah, the one other plan that I also liked, and TJ, you were very, very big fan of this, was whenever Mordekaiser would go for an ult, RBM was just right outside, like waiting. It's like, okay, when are you gonna come out of your playpen? Pounce, now that's my toy, right? And Gnar couldn't really do anything about it. But after like the 12-minute mark, I think was the last time we saw that, we never really saw Mordekaiser and Gnar in a side lane. Again, there was no opportunity to try and punish them because Harrisburg were just always looking to group. They were looking to try and force things. And when we talk about the battle of the styles at the beginning of the day, where Harrisburg is trying to play standard and Michigan's trying to play much more chaotic, it felt like a very controlled game, and that naturally should be going towards the Harrisburg side.
Shifting our focus towards the next game, we do have one more replay that we can just run through. But TJ, starting with you, I want to hear your thoughts on adaptations for Game 2, specifically for MSU, in terms of how they're actually going to come back in this series.
Yeah, so very quickly on the screen, we just see the game-ending team fight of Harrisburg having a lead that's too big. Moving forward, I'd like to see MSU either double down into craziness, and then ideally executing better on that craziness, or maybe taking a step back and playing Harrisburg's game, which they're still able to do. Most importantly, I think that ArgentumSky needs to get off Senna. He was caught out a couple of times. He didn't really have a big lane impact, and at the end of the game, he only had like 80 souls. And so that's really unimpressive, and I don't think that plays to what MSU wants to do as a team. So I'd love to see something with more engaged, something where you can link up more with RBM and really just be a thorn in Harrisburg instead of allowing them just kind of sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, the one other thing I would like to see, it's not necessarily like a draft change, more as like a mental change. It felt in a lot of ways that after their first Herald, it felt like they were just kind of playing to not lose. And unfortunately, that's usually not good enough at this level of play. You need to be playing to win. You need to be trying to drive pressure in the game. And I feel like that's something that these kind of teams, I know BM is very good at. He has a lot of experience in the amateur scene. If he can get his team to say, hey, look, you know, we're going to wipe that one from our memories. We're going to instead play, and we're going to just destroy this game. We're going to look for all the side lanes. We're not going to let their side laners play at all and go with it in a more proactive way. I think they can have a lot more success than what we saw in their first game.
You heard it from our big brain analysts. Will MSU make the adaptations they need to bring us to a Game 3? Rebel Fox, Travysty, take us into Game 2.